When I'm on my walk with Jackie, my dog, I try to put some podcast also on my ears to get a little bit inspiration. Philosophy, psychology podcasts are what I like. And this is also a nice reminder to my college years when I was studying philosophy. And recently, there was one very interesting about the connection or comparison between the ancient philosophy of virtue and stoicism to the American political theorists, the first ones, the fathers of constitutions like Jefferson, Madison, and Hamilton. And there was this nice relationship between the virtue and also how much the state should be involved in controlling that virtue. So that was the Jupiter and the Sun fight. And I thought that we could talk about this from the context of Jyotisha commentary. We have this Jupiter, which is more personal. And we also have the Sun, who is having this structure in mind. So groups of people controlling administration, structure, and order, these archetypes. We will do some symbolic dance between those archetypes. Hopefully we will add some personal touch of this philosophical context, and I hope it will not be boring like all these 1,000 times repeated, oh, Sun is this, Jupiter is this, but in different voice on many social media channels related to astrology. I have also Sun and Jupiter in the Navamsha Trikona, so these are quite interesting topics for me. I hope you will be able to apply those insights in your life, in your chart, and this will trigger some insights and eurekas. By the way, the Sun and Saturn are now in the Aquarius. They moved in the Gochara, so we have some very serious prediction. Sun will keep you dominating the whole relationship strategy, but Saturn is stronger. Saturn can pull you down. So we had the Valentine's Day and the Saturn, quite unfortunate prediction here. Also, Sun is politics, Saturn is Aquarius. If that is in the first house, then definitely you will become shy politician. Hopefully I did this astrology YouTube part right. Okay, so let's go to the substance of this video. We had those three political theorists. We have Jefferson, Madison, and Hamilton. I will not go into their philosophies because we are then make that turn to Sun and Jupiter discussion. That is the main thing. But we can say that Jefferson was seeing this intervention of state. He wanted to restrict this. He was very much inspired by Locke, by Rousseau, that one have those independent rights. Also, he was very skeptic, inspired by Voltaire against the centralized religion. So he also wanted to keep that secular manner of things. So he was inspired by Bacon, by Newton, by Locke. He was quite progressive from current perspective or terminology. Now, the Hamilton was the opposite here. In this regard of state intervention, he was inspired by Machiavelli very much, and he was quite realist that we need some strong state to keep in control the virtues of people. Also inspired by Hume, that we need some restriction, we need some control, that we are really not so saintly from behavior, so that state would be needed to keep this in check. He was also very much inspired by Adam Smith, the father of capitalism, about the free market, and also therefore this is interesting from the perspective of because the Jefferson, he was very much favorite of agrarian type of lifestyle. He was even saying that most virtuous people are those in agrarian type, and Hamilton was trying to push more that the city, the human can really prove their values when dealing in some kind of commerce, living in the cities, and so on. So also very interesting perspective of ethics related to lifestyle in more agrarian and city surrounding. And then Madison was somewhere in between. He was basically very aware of a possibility to turn the whole system into some kind of tyranny. So he was against the re-election. He was against this situation when one person can dominate the whole situation. He also changed his view from the federal to the state, but basically he was somewhere in between that we could say influence of Sun and Jupiter, of the state and the personal or abstract values. So in this context we have a Jupiter, which is representing the value, the ethics among the caste or types of consciousness. This is the Brahmana, and Brahmanas are into the philosophical concepts. We could say that Jupiter is quite abstract planet. This may have to do with the state of consciousness. The Brahmanas usually, as we have the Vedas, one part of the Vedas are the Upanishads, and the Brahmanas were studying the Upanishads. Upanishads are these philosophical parts of the Vedas. So some Brahmanas, they were doing the rituals, but we are expecting that they would have some kind of abstract framework, some ethical philosophy that was all more as a backdrop for administration. And administration was already the Kshatriyas. This was one consciousness level below the Brahmanas, and this was already governed by Sun and Mars. So these planets are having those Kshatriya nature. They have more practical approach to life. And Jupiter is loading Sagittarius in Pisces. We know that Sagittarius is more institutionalized. It's a natural 9th house. And the 12th house is more spiritual, right? There is this religious and spirituality. So religion would be more in 9th house. Spirituality is more 12th house. There are many implications here. For example, 12th house loaded by Ketu, which is showing that freedom. So it's more libertarian approach to spirituality. And also we can see that Leo and Pisces relationship is not so good like Leo and Sagittarius. So we could also see that often spiritual people may be a little bit against the Sun order of Indra, this Leo house, but Leo and religion, which is the institutional administration and official religion, they are working quite fine because they are in the Trikona relationship. And then we have the Sun, which is bringing the structure, resources, and Rita, which is the order. This is also quite important, and this is sustaining the whole concept in the practical sense, bringing that structure for people to be able in the long term following what the ideals, the virtues of Jupiter are bringing. So the Sun is ensuring that this virtue is maintained for the whole communities. And here we have two approaches. Here we have the libertarianism and authoritarianism. The libertarianism is more for freedom, personal right, and very low intervention of the state. And there we have this authoritarian approach that the state must have more dominance, more prominence, and this also has to do with some issues which need to be governed only on that international level, like for example the climate change or the pandemic, and also that the human psychology is very communal, right? If that is related to some communities or federal or state, that is only the question of the level of range, but definitely there must be some kind of administration, that we are not hyper individuals. So from this, also this authoritarian philosophy may come. So in the spiritual community, this anti-authoritarian and the libertarian lifestyle is much more pronounced, prominent, because the spirituality may have also this personal tint, personal hue. So we also know that Sun has to do with the 5th house. Natural 5th house is the Leo, and 5th house is about the leadership. We have the children, the students there, and the knowledge is bringing that authority to have such position. And now we can question, what is the relation, what should be the relationship between the Sun and the Jupiter, and also about the personal and communal, about the hierarchy and the liberty, the freedom, and so on. So we can make many intersections here. And also the other question would be, are the karakas internal or external? And this was very much inspired by this lecture, because here in that podcast, it was directly said that we have those virtues and there is this fight between our mind, our desires, and what we should be doing. This was in the relation of human, that we are imperfect, and then we need some external apparatus to control this on this communal or international context, right? So we can also see this on the very internal level, like Moon and Jupiter is the mind, which is place where desires are dancing, and also we have this Jupiter, which is the intelligence, the virtue, and the Sun can also represent some kind of soul strength to be able to follow this spiritual intervention. And the symbolism also we can apply to this external situation, that the Moon will be the society, the Sun will be the hierarchy, and the Jupiter will be those people, guiding or some form of books or ideals, some models, roles to follow, and so on. So let us talk about Jupiter and Sun. What do they really represent in matters of astrology? One thing which we already said is the abstract, because they belong to this Brahmana level. Jupiter is Brahmana, so we have those ideals, those principles, and they are quite pure because they didn't touch the practical application. They are also about the personal virtues, and those we can also find in the Kendras. We know that the first is about the truthfulness, very much represented by Jupiter. Then we have fourth, purity, 7, empathy, and the 10th house, tapasya, which is the war. It is also interesting that they include this hard working, this tapasya ability for a real strive for something, for some perfection, as a form of a virtue. This truthfulness was most important virtue. He was basically saying that the knowledge is the virtue. It must be equality between these two. And also to Aristotle, he was trying to mix the happiness with the virtue. We also see that the Jupiter, which is representing the ethics, the truthfulness, is exalted in the 4th house of happiness. So definitely there is this nice connection. Now there is also this personal tint to it, and this is very good because on one hand this is bringing that control, right? We know that this state of agency, when we are having this control, this is very important. At least we can change something, right? So the things which are personal, the things which are in our hands, the virtues which we can work, are something which is most valuable for us because we have some influence. And the karma is also very nice intersection because it's something personal, but with that personal baggage we are also involved in society or communal things. Like for example, 10 from the moon is showing that we are getting the job in the society. So it's our karma, but also we are working within some kind of communal structures. And this can also be very dangerous, exploited by religions or the state, because it can say that the systemic problems are also our fault if we are personalizing those systemic issues. And also within that personal, there is the danger of becoming egoistic, because either we can go into that philosophy of Adam Smith, that if we are working for ourselves or for our benefits, then we will also benefit the community. It was the famous quote with the baker. And also we have those quotes. I recently was watching some YouTube about some interview with the spiritual person that have this allegory, this philosophy that if we are on the plane and there is some emergency situation, then first we need to keep our oxygen mask and then we will be able to help others, right? So there are many nuances to this, and those allegories can work in some situation, but we need to be careful with the extent of this healthy egoism. So just like psychology, astrology should be neutral politically. It should be apolitical. I think that is the best way. We need to remember that astrology is operating on very abstract level, very root level. Just like the Sutra or Upanishads, these planets, they are holding so many meanings. We can unpack a lot of meanings. So therefore, many people who are working on a little bit lower levels, like politics, where we are already have those meaning very much unpacked, can justify some kind of either political stances or views using astrology. And it is really not possible, because you cannot justify something lower based on the higher values or principles, because these higher principles will be basically the source of many views, many parties, many applications, many schools, and so on. So we can also predict this can be quite dangerous. And of course, that is one of the critique of the essentialism, that it could be too much simplified, reduced, and exploited by some political or religious agencies. And for example, even in the very personal level, we can say, oh, this person is Rahu, this is Jupiter, right? When we are doing some matchmaking or friends, sambandha or anything where relationship of people are taken into account, we can say, this is Rahu, this is Jupiter, this person is Rahu, or I've met him in Rahu. So this can be quite dangerous, and this is even more when we take the mundane level of astrology and then we are applying those planets, good or bad, because these planets may have some judgmental consequences, some meanings which may be applied to whole groups of people. It could be class, it could be nation, and this also could be a quite problematic approach if we do so. So I think think it's better to keep that Jupiter away from those lower type of application and keep it at the abstract level. Just like psychology, the astrology should be quite neutral and apolitical. And then we have the Sun. The Sun is connected to 5th house, which is about children, student, leadership, authority. It is a fiery, so it has this power to punish and control, and is exalted in the 1st house, which is showing its either status or image, representation, or on the spiritual level, because the Sun can also go in that direction, is representing the soul and especially the Atma Jnana, the knowledge of the self. And in astrology, in this context, it is representing the structure, resources. It is giving all the resources to these 12 signs. This is the Sun, the Adityas, and is also representing the order, the Rita. And again, we could divide it into the internally applied order and externally. Internally, it could be through some kind of tapas, right? So it's austerity, it's the power of our character to go against the temptation of Saturn. It could be addiction or other type of desires, right? So we are worshipping the Shiva, which is also in that Sun archetypes, to give us that strength. So Vishnu is for purity, the Shiva is to give us the strength. So this is the tapa, burning in the 10th house, where the Sun has directional strength. But also on the external level, this Rita, this order, is also ensured by some kind of order, which is institution or the federal or the state. As the institution, there is some need for ritual, which is also Sun, Jupiter, and is also the education and banking is more going towards the 9th house and Sagittarius again, right? Like we have the Jyotisha course, for example, in this economic school in Poland. I think that was the incident, the first Jyotisha astrology course, which was connected to some kind of academical real institution. So just like Jupiter was personal and abstract, I would say that Sun is communal and practical. And with that practicality is also coming that imperfection, because there we have much more details, and then we need to apply some Kala Desha Patra, which is the time, circumstances, and the place. There are different cultures, there are different contexts, so now it is becoming very difficult, and many justifications will come. It's not so easy and pure like on the Jupiter level of abstract ethics, right? Like everyone agrees you should be truthful, everyone agrees you should be good. But then if you start to applying that for different cultures in different contexts, then it becomes very problematic. So there we have those kshatriya, those administration level. And I would say also that is the difference like between the ethic and etiquette, right? We have also this Jupiter and the Sun. The etiquette is how you are behaving as a form of interaction which is accepted by some culture or community or even religion. We can see that Karaka, they have this binary level. They are internal and external. They are representing the mind and also society. The Sun is representing the soul and administration, and the Jupiter is representing the deed, the intelligence, and the guiding power. So we can see how the mind in the 4th house and the Sun, which is in the 5th house, they may have this not good relationship. So we need to control our mind through the mantra, the 5th house. Also, you can see that this Jupiter in Sagittarius and the mind, there also can be not a good relationship, right? But definitely the moksha, the meditation, the 12th house is very good for the mind. So it's not so, we could say, punishing like the 5th and the 9th. So the meditation is the natural way of controlling the mind in a very nice way. And there also is the Venus exalted. Therefore, the bhakti, these types of spirituality, which is Venus exalted in the Pisces, also can show that it is very natural for the mind. Therefore, in Gita, it's said that when we are achieving this higher taste, then we are naturally resigning from the lower things in life. Therefore, it's the most natural way of progressing and also controlling the mind. And what is bhakti? Bhakti is one of the yoga, one of the spiritual evolution. According to Vedic texts, we have 4 such paths. There is a karma, raja, bhakti, and jnana. So we can progress through knowledge, through siddhi, right, through Ashtanga yoga. We can progress through bhakti, which is developing this devotion, and karma yoga, which is renouncing our fruits of the work and sacrificing our life or mission for some higher values. So the lesson from this is that we need both the virtue, the knowledge, but we also need that sun. It's an order, so we need to have some structure to follow for a long-term result, and we also need to have this tapabala, this atmabala, this real strength of the soul to be able to resist the temptation of the mind. We also learned that essentialism is quite complex issue, and it may be quite problematic to apply those Jyotisha archetypes to some kind of very complex political situation, so it's better to avoid that. Okay guys, so that's it for today. I hope you find some value in that Sun and Jupiter commentary related to that, or inspired by this podcast from Jefferson, Madison and Hamilton. If you like this video, please don't forget to hit that thumbs up. Join our Discord community. You can find the link below for one-on-one session if you like to have your chart analyzed with the Rashi, Navamsha, the Vargas, all the dashas, and with the remedies and with practical approaches to health, relationship and career life, then hit me up with this email and we can schedule the personalized consultation for you. And if you are still hungry for more, then please consider watching this one.